More on this, I'm joined by Kimberly Yam in New York. She's the Asian American Affairs reporter at Huffpost. I want to get your take. What do you make of the growing number of Asian designers and brands at New York Fashion Week? What have you noticed over the years?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel that not only are there, more of a diversity of models and across Asia and really showcasing the diversity within Asia, there's also that diversity among designers. And when we think about diversity, I think it's important to make a distinction between Asian representation and Asian American representation. Especially in the US, I think that when we talk about Asian, I think the image that is conjured up is oftentimes East Asian. But you have designers like Claudia Lee who, when casting models, are casting Pan-Asian models, so therefore you have, faces from East Asia, South Asia, Southeast Asia, kind of giving a more accurate representation of what Asians actually look like. And so I think that that's important for people in the US in particular to see because, that's going to change the face of, what it means to be Asian, and then to show that we are not really a monolith at all. Our cultures are so diverse and vibrant and different.
And that being said, do you think that the faces on the runways are reflecting the customers and the consumers of these designers and brands?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel that much more work has to be done in terms of really truly reflecting, their consumer base. I think one area in particular that needs a little bit of work is kind of just showcasing models who have darker skin. I think colorism is a very big issue in the fashion industry. And I do think for years when there was kind of this diversity quota in place among models, then casting an Asian model primarily just meant casting an East Asian model. Now that they're expanding, I think that even when it comes to South Asian models or Southeast Asian models on the runway, I would love to see a little bit more of a variety of skin colors to truly represent what their consumer base looks like.
What about initiatives to push forward? There was this platform that debuted a couple of years ago, the China Fashion Collective, showcasing Chinese designers at New York Fashion Week. What kind of impact do you think that's had so far?
I think it has actually had quite a bit of impact. And you do see a lot of elements of Chinese culture seeping into, what these designers are showcasing on runways. And especially this year, New York Fashion Week falls right in line with Lunar New Year. And so I think that's made this whole thing very, very special, especially for Chinese consumers. I do feel that there are tasteful ways to do, to find inspiration from Chinese culture. And I think a lot of designers who are doing that right, kind of Alexander Wang dropped his, I believe it was his third drop, and then he featured newer models and also Sichuanese rapper Vava. And that was huge because I think it took from his own culture and kind of gave it a little bit of a hint of streetwear twist. And that was a big deal. So you see a lot of elements of Chinese culture seeping into a lot of these new trends. And I think that is definitely a good thing, especially if a designer is paying homage to their own roots.
Right.
One thing I do kind of worry about, though, and as we see much more influence taken from from China and from other Asian cultures, that I do feel that Western society may adopt the aesthetic because it is very beautiful and is very unique. Yet I think the treatment of maybe Chinese international people and international students does not catch up with the appreciation that people may have for the Chinese aesthetic. I think a couple weeks ago, you may remember that a Duke University professor had actually called on some of the international students to stop speaking Chinese, and in a very xenophobic kind of way. And so you kind of worry that even though these aesthetic elements are making their way over to the West, being more accepted, I hope that people can be just as accepting as of Chinese people.
Kimberly Yam, thank you so much for joining us from New York.